Um,
Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you so much, Madeline. I so appreciate sharing this with you. This is our second time, and it's lovely to have this connection in this way. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm very excited, especially because just coming off retreat of teaching with my dear friend and colleague, Heidi Bourne, our retreat last week, which was the sacred path of connection and belonging. And so cultivating community with compassion and wisdom is so essential, especially right now with these radical times that we're living in. So to be able to take a break from that hour or coming in however long you're here, and hopefully just dropping in a way for you to meet yourself where you are and to connect in this alignment of this mind, body, spirit, in the sense that I think of the body, this is the foundation, this is the animal body. It can get very activated in times of uncertainty, in times of challenge, in times of stress. And so we're going to cultivate our attention in a way that can settle that reactivity and kind of bring our attention in a way that's intentional, right? That we're working with our attention intentionally and with an attitude that's friendly and an attitude that's curious versus this sense of striving versus this getting lost in a fixed state, but having this open receptivity. And then working with the spirit in the sense that the essence of who we are, like what makes you you, what makes me me, and then how are we interconnected, this sense of connection and belonging. And that when we're hijacked in a stress response, when we're maybe over identified in our mind in a way that's skewed to the negativity bias, then we feel this sense of separation. Then we feel more of this sense of suffering, dissatisfaction, and can be easily activated in our nervous system. And then that impairs our ability to see things clearly, right? And seeing clearly is clear comprehension. Where my body is and what I'm seeing is happening in the now versus the story of my identity, my persona, what I think I am or who I'm portraying, my past experience, or what things should be or how I want them to be. But really meeting the moment with this curious compassion. I love the idea of the bird as being a symbol of this practice, which where you have one wing is this loving compassion. And then you have the other wing, which is this ability to see clearly, this mindfulness. And then you have the blending of the two, which helps to liberate us from the attachment of our mind, from this state of disconnection, I would say, which is another way of I use for suffering. And then we have this sense of freedom, this open spaciousness, this be able to see things with greater depth, with greater capacity. And then we have this courageous body of the bird in the middle, right? This courageous heart. And that's what I want to focus on in our meditation today is cultivating a courageous heart. And so whatever that means for you. And then I do this, I'm a trauma sensitive practitioner. So that means that I'm guiding in a way that's invitational. I'm guiding in a way that is giving you agency, giving you choice. So I really invite you to listen. And with that curiosity, if something doesn't feel right, you'd like to experience something different, you want to pause, that you have that empowerment to do that. And let me just put it on so I can see everyone. Okay. All right. So we're going to sit for about 25 minutes and maybe 30. We'll see. And then we'll have a little question and answer afterwards. So good to see the people I can see and some from the retreat. So special to see you. Okay, everyone. So just finding this posture to practice being present. So what posture would best support you right now? Maybe you've been sitting a lot this morning. Maybe that's standing. Maybe actually lying down because you're experiencing some tension or pain in your body. Maybe it's just sitting right where you are and feeling that felt sense of your presence in the posture you've chosen. So noticing where your body is making contact with the surface. Perhaps that's your feet. Perhaps that's the sit bones resting on the cushion. Perhaps that's your back resting against a supportive prop. Or maybe you're just noticing the space between your body and your environment. But I'm inviting you to come in and again, finding areas that feel accessible to you versus distressing in a way that's pushing. Maybe it's just noticing where your hands are resting and making contact. And as we just feel this felt sense of touch, how our bodies are always in the present moment. And this is the invitation to connect in an embodied practice. And then finding that breath. I'm always inspired by the natural world. And here in Los Angeles, there's a breeze and some rain. And just finding that gentle flow of the inhalation, of the exhalation. And if for whatever reason, there seems to be some contraction with your breath, or maybe it feels short and shallow, can you give yourself permission to take a really deep inhale, or as deep as you can, and then a long exhale through the mouth? Yeah, I'm just watching several of you do that, and your shoulders just let go a little bit. So you can do this as many times as you want, that deep inhale and long exhale. Just releasing and softening. We're not striving to relax. We're inviting and allowing this space for everything to be here, but we're guiding our attention in a way that can offer a softening. So perhaps another inhale and exhale. And just noticing what it feels like to breathe intentionally. When we have a lot of thoughts going on in our mind, a lot of activity that actually can impact the way that we're breathing. It can make it kind of short and shallow. We can even hold our breath. So we can reset this animal body, this nervous system, by intentionally breathing. So that deep inhale and long exhale. You can do this as many times. If you start to yawn, that's wonderful. That activates the parasympathetic part of our autonomic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. Allowing our bodies to rest in this practice. And so letting your body breathe as you feel is most available, or what you would like, just coming to a natural rhythm of that inhale and exhale. And if you'd like, you can bring your attention right under the tip of your nose. Just noticing what it feels like to have that gentle breeze as you inhale, and then maybe even a light switch in temperature as you exhale. Just that delicate rhythm of breathing right under your nose. And if this isn't the anchor of attention you like to rest your awareness on, what about another area that you're feeling this natural rhythm of breathing? That could be your chest, your belly. I like to use my back, just feeling the expansion of my back as I inhale, and then the contraction as I exhale. Maybe it's feeling your whole body breathing and that gentle rotation that requires no effort, but simply awareness of the in and the out of your breath. I'm going to read this beautiful poem by Donna Falls. It says, I breathe in all that is, awareness expanding, to take everything in as if my heart beats the world into being. From the unnamed vastness beneath the mind, I breathe my way into wholeness and healing. Inhalation, exhalation. Each breath a yes and a letting go, a journey and a coming home. And if for any reason the breath feels complicated or maybe even causing some friction, you can bring your attention to something more neutral. That could be just listening to sounds. Noticing your mind is not a problem or something to fix, but just an experience to observe. Just bringing that wandering mind back to an anchor so that we can feel the sense of intention, so that wandering mind can begin to settle into the present. A beautiful teacher, Sharon Salzberg, says, meditation is a practice of resilience. The healing is the return, not in never having wandered to begin with. So this time, every time you come back, this is the practice of awareness, meeting it with the wings of friendliness and curiosity. Inviting that curiosity to be where your body is. Inviting more permission and space to allow everything that is here, meaning the thoughts, the emotions, the physical sensations. Inviting that space, like the spaciousness of the sky. So there's room for all of the weather. There's room for the sun. Perhaps inviting with each inhale a little bit more space. This is by Nancy Wood, Connections. Every time we take a breath, we become the universe. The very moment of creation is contained in us and passes on to rocks and trees, animals and fish. The old ones say the essence of life is in water and wind, earth and breath, fire and bone, but most of all in breath. Our first connection to the elk, the hawk, the bear, and the buffalo. Without breath, no connection. Without connection, no creation. Without creation, no breath. This is the sacred circle of life, unbroken. So just noticing this sacred connection of sitting together and following this natural rhythm of the breath, of the receiving and the letting go, the receiving and the letting go. As we're cultivating this attention to steady our minds and perhaps to allow a settling down deeper into ourselves. You can think of like the waves of an ocean. That's the conditioning mind that we can just fight up against and be tumbled by. And if we allow ourselves to drift and settle and go deeper into the spaciousness of the sea, this is where we can find a sense of grounding, a sense of inner connection. And this might be settling down into your heart. This might be drifting down into your belly, your intuition. this inner knowing. And it's referred to the Buddha nature. This is below the conditioned narrative. This can be our essence, the wholeness, that wholesome state. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to experience tenderness, right? Just recognizing what is here. What is it that you're holding in your heart, or maybe holding on your shoulders, feeling the weight of something. And maybe you're feeling a sense of ease and spaciousness and the opposite of burdens. Can you just take that in without grasping, but just appreciating, observing? And if you are experiencing something that seems more tender, maybe that drop of pain or suffering, confusion, uncertainty, this is the time that we can practice compassion. But first, we have to notice, or we can notice, what is happening, right? What's happening on the inside? And this is where we bring that in curious investigation. Lama Rod Owens writes, the body tells the truth regardless of if we speak its language or not. Often my practice has focused on trying to meet my body where it is, instead of constantly trying to get it to meet me where I am. So meaning, like, our minds can say, I should be feeling this, or we're focusing on that, or I want to be this, but it's more of being honest with ourselves. The body is very honest in the way that it's slower than the fastness of our thinking. So just maybe with this curious friendliness, noticing what's happening on the inside, so that we can meet it with these compassionate phrases. The word karuna, or compassion, this quivering of the heart in response to suffering. And this is this delicateness, this is this beautiful tenderness. Thich Nhat Hanh says, compassion means to suffer with. So this is our sense of belonging and connection. But there's a way to meet our heart that can be of skillfulness in the sense of wisdom, that we're bringing a sense of wisdom to what's here. So when we think of this blend of empathy and reason, right? This open-heartedness, and then navigating it with a sense of wisdom. When we experience pain, we have a tendency to want to contract, to defend, to close down, to protect our hearts, because on some level it feels too much. But the more that we practice in this way with intention and holding our hearts with wisdom, this can help to let that energy in motion, meaning emotion, to move, to come back to that sense of flow. So if you can identify something that might be concerning, that might be on your mind, there's a lot to choose from with the state of affairs. but something that we can offer these phrases that perhaps can resonate with you. And this can just be the focus of our attention for the last part of this meditation, or you can just let it go and stay with what you're doing. I just offer these phrases to you that you can come back to as a way of just having that attention on that anchor. So then we can release the stories that are holding us and just be with the bare witness of our hearts with wisdom. May I be free from suffering. May I hold this pain with wise compassion. May I find peace and healing. And I'll repeat these. May I be free from suffering or struggle or disconnection. May I hold this pain with wise compassion or wise love. May I be at peace and healing. And just noticing what it feels like to incline towards this loving wisdom. And I offer these last phrases to ourselves, to this community, and out into the world to all beings. May we remember that we belong to each other. May we remember that we belong to each other. May our thoughts and actions reflect the world we want to live in and leave behind. May our thoughts and actions reflect the world we want to live in and leave behind. And the last part, and these phrases are from Ruth King, the teacher of Mindful of Race. May all beings, without exception, benefit from our growing awareness. May all beings, without exception, benefit from our growing awareness. And if there are any phrases or words that come to you that you'd like to offer in your mind's eye, to yourself, to another, to a community, an organization, whatever it is, this is your time. Beautiful. May I be free of regret. Yeah. And this is the invitation. We're not battling with the narrative in our mind. Can it happen? Will it happen? But we're just inviting. This is the beautiful wisdom about these practices, is the invitation. We're not getting lost and stuck in making it happen or convincing ourselves. And now for the last part, Just letting all of the intention go and simply being. Being with your awareness of what you've cultivated. Being right here, right now. Beautiful. Love the participants that are offering these words. May I love everyone around me. Just noticing what it feels to share from that generosity, from that kind intention. And now we'll begin to close this part of our practice and meditation. Noticing what it feels like to perhaps gently move your body, stretching, blinking your eyes open. If you're able to come off camera, just taking care of yourself. And just noticing without it more of an evaluation, but what are you aware of now in having practice and having cultivated some steadiness of our attention and this opening and tending to our heart, and then putting it out in a way that is an act of generosity, an act of giving. You're welcome, Monica. Yeah, so just noticing there's restlessness, right? And this is where, when we are aware of what's happening, we have choice. When we're not aware, then we're going to go into automatic reactivity. We're going to go into default mode. We're going to go into our deepest conditioning. And so the more we make the unconscious conscious, the more choice we have to engage in a way that is, I would say, for me, the intention is to engage with loving awareness that is rooted in wisdom, that is rooted in ethics, so that I can live in a way that I'm managing what's happening as opposed to being overwhelmed by life. And then I'm able to show up in a way that can be accountable, in a way that can be different from the way that maybe has caused harm and suffering. So I'd love to open it up now for the last part. Any questions, any comments, anything? I'm going to open it up to our wonderful community. You can put it in the chat box as far as if you wanted to share anything, like some people have been doing. You can use your hand icon to raise, or you can actually raise your hand because I can see most people, whatever you'd like. Or you can also text to Madeline on the chat box and she can say something so that there's anonymity or you're feeling shy. There isn't, then I'm happy to share some other things as well. Sometimes it's giving a little space for the people that are typing or formulating thought. So I'll give a prompt, and this might stimulate some conversation. So the prompt is going to be, how does your mindfulness practice help you to hold things with wisdom versus them holding you with suffering? So one of the things that the Buddha says is that suffering doesn't hold us, we hold suffering. So just the idea of, wow, so I'm not a victim of the sense of disconnection I'm feeling. It doesn't mean I haven't been victimized. It doesn't mean there aren't forms of harm. I'm not saying that, but meaning the way that I can relate in here and frame my experience can actually liberate, create a sense of connection and wisdom that none of the circumstances have to change. None of the outside conditions have to change. That's pretty phenomenal. And we look at very devoted teachers and people of different backgrounds. I think of, one that inspires me always is Nelson Mandela, that here he was imprisoned, experiencing incredible injustice and cruelty, and yet the freedom that he had within himself, regardless of his conditions and circumstances. I think of that of Viktor Frankl as well. I think of that of different people, that how we have gone through adversity in our own life and how have we gotten here, this innate resiliency, this innate capacity, how we're able to sit with ourselves. That's one of the things I shared on the retreat with when we did our smaller groups. I was just acknowledging the incredible courage it takes to sit with yourself, right? Just to be with ourselves. And we don't just have to sit there and white knuckle and hold our breath. That we can do it in a way that's cultivating this sense of love, that's cultivating this sense of friendliness, that's cultivating a sense of neutrality. Maybe just observing, just bearing witness, but is rooted in some type of wisdom and some type of warmth or kindness. Yeah, could you, so to repeat the prompt is, how do you use mindfulness to hold things in your life that feel overwhelming, painful, that normally can throw you off center, that can put you in a reactive state? So how does mindfulness, this practice of meditation, help you to hold things differently? And maybe you're new and maybe you're like, I don't know yet, or I'm easily hijacked, or I've got one thing that feels like this practice is not going to help with. Yes to every other area, but not this one. This one, it's holding me and it's got a grip and I don't know how to get unstuck. So if there's any answers to that or responses, how does mindfulness, this meditation practice as well, help you to hold things differently? There's no right or wrong answer.
I
Yes,
have an answer.
please, Brittany.
I
Hi.
think for me, it's like if I notice that people are in odd, uncomfortable moods or whatever, I just take mindfulness to be like, okay, they're going through something, they just need to get through it. I'm gonna be aware and loving to them and let them do their own thing. I'm mindful that everyone needs their space, I guess. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. First of all, that awareness to notice that someone's going through something, and then the wisdom to say, I'm not going to take it personally, right? And then also the wisdom to give some space, right? Without, and I'm hearing you doing it with compassion. So without shutting your heart And this is the courageous heart of compassion, is not shutting our heart down, but keeping it open and using that loving wisdom to navigate what it is that we're seeing and how to respond. That's beautiful, Brittany. Thank you. Jennifer, I see you had your hand up.
Um, this is a more of a question. When I feel, yeah, kind of overwhelmed by fear or something negative like that, yeah, is the best way just to try to really breathe mindfully and, yeah, stay with it. Don't, or yeah. I'm new to this kind of, so
Right.
if you have any suggestions or yeah, how do I deal with feelings like that?
Beautiful. Great question. Thank you so much. So can we be curious about what's happening? So, oh, can we just pause and notice something's going on, right? In the sense that what's happening? I'm feeling overwhelmed. What does that feel like? Well, my mind is racy, my heart is racy, I'm holding my breath, or I'm feeling, I'm gripping my arms, my hands, like just noticing what's happening. And then can we attend to it in a way that's skillful? Maybe it's taking some deep intentional breaths. Maybe it's walking around the block and looking at the trees and noticing the different colors, like orienting ourselves to get out of perhaps a story, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
usually a narrative that
mhm,
can either be making it worse, better, right? So if it's making it better, then we're like, oh, you know what? There's a new way I can look at this. And maybe it's this, and there's some spaciousness. There's not, but when there's attachment, then there could be, well, then this is going to happen. And what if, and what about? And when we go into this what if narrative,
mhm,
that's a worried mind, right? That
mhm,
is the worried, right? And then I'm lost in the story and I'm kind of collecting evidence. Well, then that happened. Then what if that happened, right? And I'm building to support my thesis, or I'm like collecting evidence to support my narrative, right? So if we
mhm,
can pause and drop it, Pema Chodron says, feel the feelings, drop the story, meaning our attachment to the narrative, and just come back to what's happening. Oh, I feel a contraction in my chest. Maybe just place my hand on my chest and just breathe deeply. Maybe it's feeling stress rises. Maybe it's just feeling the lower part of my body. Maybe it's just looking around and offering a sense of gratitude. May I be grateful for this space that I have right now. May I be grateful for the rain. May whatever it is, right? But we're intentionally bringing our attention to get unhooked from the
yeah,
experience that's overwhelming us, and then to navigate it, right? To navigate, not that we're trying to feel better, but
yeah,
that we're working with what is, and
mhm,
we attend to it in a way that's curious and friendly, it actually tends to shift it. It
mhm,
can, because when we're overwhelmed, our body's going into a stress response. So it's like it feels too much, too little, not enough. So then how can we give it something that feels this is okay. This feels manageable. This feels like something I can control. In the sense like I can breathe intentionally. There feels some self-control in that. Versus when we're overwhelmed, it can feel out of control. And that
mhm,
can feel really distressing.
mhm.
Is that helpful?
Okay. Yes, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to read some of the feedback. It helps me focus on what's actually happening versus the ways I'm making it worse for myself with the reactivity to it. Exactly. Breathing before I automatically react to whatever often unhelpful thought pops into my head. It gives me space to try not to believe everything I think, which can cause so much suffering. Yeah. This is where can we soften? Can we kind of step back and say, maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe that's offering that middle way. When I'm into a polarity of language, like this dualistically, it's this or that, all or nothing, right and wrong, most likely there's some attachment happening. So can it be more like maybe, maybe not? Is there another way to look at this? Can I just let it go for right now and come back to a grounding practice? Come back to, oh, this is important to you. Or, oh, can we be curious about what's happening on the inside? Right? Thank you, everyone. Is there anything else unrelated to what we've talked about so far that people are just having, have one more chat. Let's see. There are many things I see myself holding on to at least briefly. If I can remember to approach the situation and myself with real curiosity, both in terms of how do I feel, but also what am I observing, then I'm free to allow the situation without being overwhelmed by it. Beautiful. This is where curiosity is such a gift. When we become curious, that means we're non-judgmental and we're open. We're open. And that stickiness of attachment to a fixed view, it needs to look like this. It's supposed to look like, it shouldn't look like, whatever it is, this shouldn't be happening right now. That kind of contraction and fixed state, what can really help to create more spaciousness and to unstick is curiosity. Like when you look at a child, I remember, I don't know why I just flashed on this, but I remember taking my son, and there's this area, this park that has a duck pond and all these different animals. And, he was probably 2. Why do birds fly? Like one of those beautiful childlike beginner minds questions. And at first I was like, oh my God, how am I going to explain it? Like I got into like being literal about it. And instead I went to curiosity. And I'm like, how do you think they fly? And he goes, well, I think it's the wind that's going underneath their wings. And I think, and it was just so beautiful. And it actually helped me to see it differently and me to be open, right? And this sense of connection that I felt, as opposed to coming from my mind and having the right answer, the right way. And this is where children are such our teachers, and to help us to say that, anything is possible, and to open up and seeing things that has been seen so many times, but through this place of curiosity, it's a little different, right? Says, I am feeling great sadness and regret about a very close friend who died, and that I could have been a better person. Oh, thank you for naming that, Susan. My heart is with you. I'm hearing the natural thought around grief, right? That here we have this loss and what we wish we could have done differently, right? And how we wish we could have done differently, and the sense of the shortness of this time. So then I would ask you, is there any way that you can meet that sadness with some care? In the way that, yes, feel the regret, but really meeting the tenderness of the heart. In the way that it's just allowing the love to wet those eyes, right? Feel that ache in the chest. And allow that this is an act of love, of you reflecting on this person, of really just being with the vulnerability of loss, and recognize how that's impacting you. And holding it in a way that if we get lost in the story of what we could have done, should have, that maybe that even takes away from really just feeling, boy, I really am going to miss this person and I love them. Yeah. And can we hold both? Is there room for both? I'm sorry for your loss, Susan. Thank you for sharing this. You'll be in my thoughts and my practice. We have all experienced wonder. We see it as children and in children. We somehow forget to view the world with awe that is inherent in curiosity. Exactly, Leslie. So this is why teachers, and when I put like part of my education training and all that is motherhood. My greatest teachers have been my kids, and I've worked with children as well for years. But that sense of awe, and the acronym that I love for awe is what and what else and what else. And is A, what, W-E, and what else, right? This sense of awe. So instead of this kind of concrete thinking, can we open up to what else is true? What else is here? What other way can we look at this? When I think of Thich Nhat Hanh and how he is so beautifully devotional to drinking a cup of tea or mindful walking, and sometimes it makes me nervous to sit as long as he can sit with like mindful eating or drinking tea, that I think because of the conditioned mind that says, I got to get to that email. I've got to get to, whatever it is, right? Having that. And that's why going on retreat is so wonderful, because you have this spaciousness of time. So the habits that interrupt being present can be taken out of the equation. And then you get to, I would say, rewire your nervous system to be more familiar with spaciousness, to be more familiar with being with yourself. And I have to say, the Big Bear Retreat Center is absolutely beautiful. It's so beautiful. The ground, the land, the team, everyone that is holding space in such a beautiful, sacred way. It's a real treat. So hopefully you will come to the retreat center sometime.